Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Rebel Laughlin on the USA Global TV and Radio Network. And I use those three expressions because this is truly a worldwide audience, and anywhere it could be any time of the day. This is Talking Heads, and our topic this particular 6 weeks is on pain management, pain control. So let me get my slides lined up here where we can start talking about them. Okay, there we go. I'm a researcher, not a doctor, never been associated with the pharmaceutical industry. I fell in love with chemistry sophomore year in high school, got a degree in it. Unfortunately, never got a chance to practice it as a chemist. I got an invitation to Vietnam and everything changed after that. But in more recent years, I've fallen back in love with chemistry. I use it almost on a daily basis to look in the human body at the cellular level. I look for what's going on, what causes this to happen, what chemicals are happening that cause these other ones. And today's presentation, we're actually going to delve into some of these major chemicals that happen as a result of pain. But that's what I look for, because if you treat cause, you'll generally fix a problem. If you're treating symptoms, it's a Band-Aid. You keep putting Band-Aids on something, but it never goes away. Pain is an individual thing. Some people can feel immense amount of pain and somebody else feel nothing at all. And even the same person at some point in time may feel pain differently. A lot of things happen from that point of where you injure yourself to the time it gets to the brain and is interpreted, perceived as pain. Pain is a complex physiological and psychological experience that serves really and truly as a protective mechanism because it alerts the body that there's some potential harm or damage. You put your hand on a fire, and if you don't realize that it's burning, you can end up with some serious damage to your hand and to your body. So there's a lot of things going on there that pain, yes, it's inconvenient, but it really tells you something. So we talked about this last week. We talked about you have pain receptors. Let's say that I managed to smash my fingernail. In fact, I actually did that coming up the stairs a little earlier today. I wasn't paying attention. I was just going crazy. And as I'm going up, I ended up slamming my little finger into where the end of the stairwell closed and the part above it didn't. And what chunk, right away, it told me I did something wrong. But it starts right there. You have a nerve cell or some nerve cells. And those nerve cells basically begin that electrical signal, the communication between that pain site and to the brain. So it goes up this nerve fiber and axon, and these individual nerve fibers are bundled together because I get a whole bunch of little ones, but when they come up, they kind of get bundled together and then they're bundled together again. And we talked about the different sizes of the nerve fibers and what they control and whether it's sharp pain, whatever. And we talked about that last week. So please tune into the YouTube and get the archive of last week's show. But these nerve fibers are bundled and they go to a peripheral nerve, and then it ends up in our back, in our spinal cord, and eventually gets up to our neck, transmitted across into our brain. And then when it gets to the thalamus, that's where our brain, and this happens hundredth of a microsecond, it just boom, 100 microseconds, boom, it's there. And our brain makes a determination. It perceives, is this a major pain, a minor pain, whatever. And that's our first introduction to pain. So let's look a little bit more at just besides what's happening from the communication perspective, what actually is going on. So if I'm looking at the transmission of pain, this finger is hurt. And I know electronically it happens because the nerve sends all that stuff up there. But in reality, there's a lot of other things that are going on at the same time. So I have some level of cellular damage in more than one cell, more than likely. And that pain communication just started. We just talked about that. But what else happens is that in that cell, you have a lot of other individual components, molecules. You got proteins, nucleotides, ions, all sorts of things that are going on. And when that cell gets injured, ruptured, whatever, these things cause, proteins and nucleotides and whatever. They cause other, what they call mediators. In other words, they are like little communication. Hey, do you know what's going on over here? Oh, no, well, let me tell you. And so they communicate to nearby cells, and they communicate with other ones. And before you know it, you have a bunch of things that are happening. And these mediators are histamines and bradykinin and prostaglandins and cytokine and all sorts of things. But as we look at each one of these things, they're there for a reason. It's part of the immune system. But sometimes we can control these chemicals because just like anything else, a chemical happens, that reaction, well, can I speed it up? Can I slow it down? Can I stop it? And the answer is more than likely, yes. If there's something going on from a chemical perspective, you have some options. Well, let's talk about these different chemicals that are really inflammatory mediators. These are things that begin that pain process where we start having that redness, that soreness, and that hurt and that swelling, all those things that go along with an injury. So histamines, we've heard antihistamine when we have an allergy. Well, histamines are little things that happen under the skin. Let's say you get a mosquito bite. You get a histamine reaction under the skin. Well, the easiest way to get rid of that histamine reaction from a mosquito bite is put your hand under, let's say it's on your arm, forearm, put your hand, arm, whatever, wherever you're bit at, under very, very, very hot, as hot of water as you can stand. That hot water is going to reduce, eliminate, mitigate that histamine reaction. Now I could take an antihistamine and accomplish the same thing, but I could do something with very, very hot or very, very cold. So I want to take and rub an ice cube across that. I remember my daughter on her second birth, she had a C-section, and she had an extreme itch from whatever the drug was they used to do the C-section. And I'm in the there, and she's just going crazy with this itching. And the nurses are trying to calm her. And I said, you get some really hot washcloths and put it where the itch is at. So you get an itch, hot water can literally eliminate that itch. And they did. They'd never heard about that before. They didn't understand what's happening. But you could do the same thing with an ice pack. You can do the same thing with a very hot towel. But histamines are bioactive compounds, and our immune system basically releases it. It's a response. We have something happen. Our immune system is going to go to that site and say, what's going on? And okay, that I need to do something. So I have these antibodies that are in response to a pathogen. Might be a virus. We've had this COVID thing coming out, and our antibodies from our immune system attack it. And if our immune system's pretty good, we may not have any response at all. If it's not so good, we might have a sneezy, runny nose. We may have some coughing. If it's not very good at all, well, we may end up coming down with COVID and having a lot of other ones. But allergies we get, bacteria we get, a lot of things are constantly attacking our body. And our immune system is there for a reason. It's there to provide a response for these invaders. Many years ago, I was in the doctor's office in New Orleans, and I'm happy to be there third year in a row. And I picked up my folder back when everything was in paper. And I'm looking at it, and I said, whoa, I was here a year ago, almost the exact day. Well, 2 years ago, I was here the exact same day. And I'm looking at this, and the doctor comes in. I said, can this be an allergy, some seasonal thing? He looks at it, and same thing. I'm in the office the exact same day, literally 3 years in a row. And we came to the conclusion, it was probably a seasonal allergy. Literally 2 weeks later, I'm traveling somewhere on business, and I'm reading one of the newspaper magazines in the airline, and it talks about fresh frozen bee pollen being a great anti-allergy option. And so I came back to New Orleans. I found a place nearby where I was. I bought some fresh frozen bee pollen, and I started taking 1/8 of a teaspoon a day. Long story short, a year later, I never had another allergy to whatever that was. I have no idea what it was. But the bees are there. They're constantly getting pollen from everywhere. But at an eighth of a teaspoon a day, I was able to have my body develop a reaction so that I would not have any more allergies. Uh, those are things we can do. But these responses, sometimes we can take action, sometimes we can't. But there's a lot of cellular damage going on, allergies, toxins, infections, and our immune system is there for a reason to counter that. And sometimes it helps us and sometimes it doesn't. So let's talk a little bit about histamines. As I said, they're an immune response to a particular injury. It could be an allergy, it could be a lot of different things. But let's go with the injury portion today, because we could talk about this from an allergy perspective, from a bacteria. We could talk about it from a different one. But let's just keep with the injury throughout our entire talk today. So these histamines, they stimulate what's called nociceptors. And we talked about that last time. This is that first level of communication from that neuron in that cell going back to the brain. And so it begins this pain communication. It's now talking to the brain. Your site of the pain in your body, whether it's your lower back, your head, doesn't matter. It's now communicating to your brain. And these histamines cause several things to happen. It causes increased blood flow. So in other words, you're getting more oxygen and healing power to that particular area of the injury. But as part of the immune system, it wants to block off that area so it doesn't get infected by other things. And that's where swelling comes. That's a natural body's reaction to wall off that area from invaders. Well, if it's just something internal and something that was never open to the world, you're still getting the same swelling. Why am I swelling if I'm not being invaded by something outside my body? Well, that's just the way our immune system works. But these histamines, they cause the redness, the pain, the heat, all of these kind of things. And in many cases, you can use an antihistamine to effectively counter that histamine reaction. But we don't think about histamines when we have pain. If I have a little swelling in my finger, we don't think about antihistamines. If I'm out working in the yard and I get some blisters, I don't think about that being part of a pain control option. But antihistamines might be an option, just as very hot water, very cold ice might be able to do that. But the swelling increases our sensitivity to pain. So in other words, now everything's being compressed, and that swelling actually becomes an issue because those little pain receptors now, instead of being open, they're being compressed. And now your pain tolerance, your pain threshold is much greater than it was a moment ago. Okay, so the histamines, we have a lot of natural, I don't have to take an antihistamine, I can take a natural inhibitor. But look up on Dr. Google, YouTube, natural inhibitors for histamines, and it's going to give you a list of all sorts of things. They all work. It just depends on how fast you get, how much, and which ones work better than other ones. But hydration is a big one. If you're dehydrated, you're going to feel pain a lot more than when you're hydrated. There are a lot of good foods out there that are natural antihistamines, and there's things that we eat on a daily basis. We just don't know what they are. But Google and YouTube for any of these things we're talking about today. If I'm talking about a histamine or some other chemical reaction, go to Google, go to YouTube and say, what's a natural inhibitor for this particular chemical? And it's going to give you a lot of information. But if I want to reduce some of my symptoms of that injury, that wherever that's at, inhibiting histamines can help me because it takes away a lot of that swelling and hurt and everything. Bradykinin is another chemical that's intermediate inflammatory mediator that's released into the body as a result of that immune response. So it's a bioactive peptide. It again influences how much inflammation I have in that area. Also, kind of ratchets up that level of sensitivity to the pain. We talk about vasodilators. These are things that increase our blood flow to that area. And in doing that, because I'm increasing that, I'm having that swelling on the outside because everything inside is pressing against it. I'm giving that more pain to the area than what was there originally. So if I can not have that amount of swelling, I want a little vasodilation because I want some more oxygen. I want things getting in there that need to be there to heal, but I don't need that much that I have no mobility in wherever I'm at in my body. So that's one of the things I can look at. So bradykinin, it's there's a lot of things going on. We could go through all these different ones, but it's not worth that level of interest. But bradykinin in and of itself is something that's worth talking about. Enzymes generated, it increases our blood flow. That's good because we get that extra oxygen in there. But that if I get too much blood flow, moderation's good, excess is not. I end up with edema, that's swelling and pain because of that pressure. Bradykinin releases things called prostaglandin. We'll talk about that. It increases inflammation, something we don't want. It increases the sensitivity of that pain at that particular site. But just like histamines, there's some natural inhibitors to bradykinin, and that's what we're going to talk about here. Okay, so quercetin, rutin, ginger, turmeric, bee propolis, these are all things that can, in fact, reduce the level of bradykinin in our body. So if this thing occurs and I happen to have some turmeric that I can go inside and take a pill, great. But quercetin, resveratrol, turmeric, ginger, most of these things are not very bioabsorbable in the body. Yeah, they get in there, but they're in 2 or 3 or less than 5% range. But in many cases, if I can add black pepper extract to turmeric, curcumin, it will increase its bioavailability 100 times more than that. And so now I'm getting that turmeric, that curcuminoid, right down into the level of that cell that's having a problem. And when that gets down there, it says, hey, bradykinin, stop, slow down a little bit. You don't really need to be here. And it moderates that particular area. One of the ones I love, I really and truly love, is a thing from mangosteen plant, fruit. It's called gamma mangosteen. It's a xanthone. And I've had cases where, maybe I'll go out and I'll work, I'll get some blisters, or I'll have an injury, a mechanical injury, or I smash something. I can, even running, I go out and I don't run for a while, and I go out and run, and I know in 3 days my legs are going to be hurting because all of a sudden I haven't used them. I can take this mangosteen fruit juice, and that level of xanthone will get in there, and it just makes it disappear. It's like I never was injured. Great stuff. So turmeric, curcumin is the only other molecule, and I've studied this for a number of years. What inhibits the cycle? I'm going to talk about this in a little bit more detail. COX-2, but doesn't affect COX-1, and I'll go into a lot more detail about it. But mangosteen fruit juice is one, but you have to have the whole fruit because most of the xanthones are in the rind, and when you grind the entire fruit up and put it into a juice, that rind is what gives you those benefits. But when I inhibit bradykinin, I get less inflammation. The vasodilation goes down. So in other words, I have less swelling. I have less pain because I'm no longer pushing those pain receptors. So I end up with less sensitivity to it. A lot of things happen. I feel better. I have more mobility in wherever that injury is at. Now, where I've been injured and I've taken the gamma mangosteen or the curcumin, I know I have an injury because if I touch it, I can feel it. But I don't have a mobility issue. I don't have an issue with it just constantly throbbing back in me. But I don't have an issue of something there constantly reminding me I have pain. We talked about prostaglandins being released as a result of bradykinins. Well, these are complex fat molecules. They're produced, again, by our immune system. And once they get involved, they also want to increase vasodilation. So we have many ways. We got the histamines, we got the bradykinin, now we got the prostaglandins. They're all in there. They want to get more blood flow to that area because that's the way you're going to improve the oxygen, get the healing part down there. But when they start increasing everything from the inside and they cause the outside to swell because they're trying to block off any foreign invaders, you end up with no mobility in that part of the body. Anytime you move, it hurts. And so if I can stop that vasodilation, then I'm good, because otherwise I end up with that redness, the heat, the soreness, the tenderness, the swelling, all those things that go when I think of some kind of injury. Prostaglandins, because of that vasodilation, also increases our pain sensitivity. Our pain threshold just becomes more acute, more aware. Actually, in prostaglandins also makes the nerves more communicative. They just like, hey, you really need to tell your brain about this right now. So it kind of accelerates that nerve communication. And that process is called neurogenic inflammation, because we're now getting the nerves more inflamed than they need to be. So a lot of things are going on with these prostaglandins that we should be able to moderate a little bit. And part of these prostaglandins, they're from the bradykinins, but we talked about a lot of enzymes. But when I back off and say, well, what's the next level above prostaglandins? Well, I get up there and I get this thing called arachidonic acid, AA. But that arachidonic acid in and of itself, it's like it's there, but it can't do anything by itself. It needs help. Our bodies have two enzymes, one active all the time. It's called COX-1, cyclooxygenase 1. It's very protective of the stomach lining. It's used for a lot of other things. It's there in our body working all the time. I have another enzyme that is called COX-2, cyclooxygenase 2, and it's dormant. Until something happens in the body, it's there, but it's not needed. Then all of a sudden, prostaglandins, histamines, they come knocking on the door. The immune system says, yeah, go out and get them. And now all of a sudden that COX-2 gets out there, and it's kind of like a director. It's causing, oh, go do this, go do that. And we have these things called non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. We think about aspirin, we think about Tylenol, we think about acetaminophen. We talk about a lot of things out there. And these NSAIDs are things that attack that COX-2 molecule, that enzyme, and calm it down. So when I take an anti-inflammatory from say Tylenol, I'm getting some pain relief. But at the same time, it's also causing COX-1 problems, major problems. And so in the pharmaceutical industry, it says, it'd be really nice if I could attack that COX-2 molecule, but not affect COX-1. So they came out with these molecules called COX-2 selective, and they may be 300 times more effective in focusing on the COX-2 and not the COX-1. But they ended up being pulled off the market and having a lot of other problems from cardiovascular issues. Lots. When I look at COX-2, I know that the mangosteen fruit, the rind on the outside has these xanthones. That's about 41 of them. And one of those xanthones is called gamma mangosteen. And it is a COX-2 inhibitor. Boom, it doesn't touch COX-1 at all. So if I'm looking for something that's going to work against the prostaglandins and that COX-2, I want something that's not going to affect my COX-1. I want COX-2 only. Well, the only other thing that I've been able to find, I've been studying this thing for over 10 years now. What can I do that will effectively counter the COX-2 orchestra of events going on, but not affect my COX-1 protective mechanisms? Curcumin's another one. But again, curcumin, you really need to have it jacked up with the black pepper extract, piperine. So if you're buying curcumin, very inexpensive option, make sure that it has piperine or black pepper extract, so that if you're using that as a COX-2 inhibitor, then you have the ability to, it's going to get down. It's going to take a little bit of time. You go buy mangosteen juice. It's generally like the cost of a bottle of whiskey or something like you buy a bottle. It's like $20, $25, $30. You don't need much, but again, it's a little bit more expensive option. But when I take that COX-2 inhibitor and I can inhibit the COX-2, which inhibits the prostaglandins, which also inhibits some of the other things going on, I end up with less inflammation. And I'm going to tell you, literally overnight, within hours, you end up with less pain sensitivity, lower pain transmission. It kind of calms down that neurogenic factor that's going on with the prostaglandins. I automatically cut way back on these inflammatory mediators, all these other actors that want to get in because they're part of that show that's going on. And you end up basically major pain relief. Gamma mangosteen, again, it's a xanthone. It's found in the rind of a mangosteen fruit. I can buy mangosteen in season at the HEB, but I don't eat I can eat the fruit inside. It's a white fruit. It's very, very tasty, but I don't eat the rind because it's very bitter. So if I want to get that gamma mangosteen as a pain mediator, I need to actually buy the juice, which has the whole fruit pulverized and put into that juice. So as a warning, if you're buying mangosteen, make sure it's whole fruit mangosteen juice. Okay, so I have a lot of other natural inhibitors besides the gamma mangosteen. If I'm taking fish oil, omega-3 fatty acids, turmeric, that's a curcuminoid that we talked about earlier, curcumin. That's that yellow Indian spice, turmeric. Ginger, green tea, Resveratrol, particularly with turmeric and resveratrol, you absolutely positively must have that black pepper extract. Otherwise, they're there, they're just not near as effective. Uh, Boswellia, we from the old days they call it frankincense, and even olive oil is a mediator of some degree. But the same things that mediate bradykinin also mediate these prostaglandins. So when I end up looking at these inhibitors, it's just these are things that I can have on a daily. I could have ginger tea. I could have green tea. I can take the boswellia as a pill. I could take the turmeric and the resveratrol as a pill. I could take the fatty acid as part of my salmon. Lots of things I can do. But these prostaglandins, that when I inhibit them, I end up with less inflammation. My pain sensitivity goes way down. The pain transmission through the nerve fibers goes way down. Everything that I want to have goes down. And if by chance I had a fever because of whatever is going on, that fever is alleviated too. So a lot of things you can do with natural inhibitors. Okay, so if I continue on this thing, what should I know? I mean, it's nice to know that I can do this, but sometimes you really need to know what's the good part, and what's the bad part. So if I'm looking at something out there and I say, okay, fine, it's neat. Well, let me look at the other side of the equation. If I do this, what else can happen? And so when I'm researching these things, I want to know that sounds like a pretty good deal. But what if I don't? What happens if I don't do it? What happens if I do it? What happens if I overdo it? So if I inhibit my prostaglandins, good. That reduces pain, inflammation, fever, gives me better mobility during my healing. Yeah, that's kind of neat. But because prostaglandins are also used in other aspects of our immune system and health, we may have problems with our stomach lining. We may have problems with blood clotting. So again, a little is fine, but don't overdo it. If I want to inhibit that arachidonic acid, again, reduce pain, reduce inflammation. But because that arachidonic acid is an active component, it also helps to tissue repair and some other inflammation issues. So I don't want to go overboard. I like to, yes, inhibit it, but I don't want to go overboard. Now, COX-2, once it's activated, if I can deactivate it, that's fine. Reduce pain, improve mobility. But I want that COX-2 available because when I do get injured and I really need that level of that part of my body blocked off and really and truly protected, then I need that. So I don't want to totally eliminate my COX-2. I just want it in dormant state. So there's some issues there that really need to be aware of. But again, if you're doing this in moderation, and what's moderation? If I'm taking whole fruit mangosteen juice, maybe all I need is 2 ounces of the juice every 6 hours. That's not much. If I'm using curcumin, maybe I need a gram every 6 hours. But again, everybody's a little bit different. If I take a gram and I see some active results, it doesn't hurt. Maybe my next thing, well, I need to take another one. Well, maybe I need to find out when does the pain start coming back. If it comes back in about 12 hours, maybe I need to set this thing up on an 8-hour basis. So your body's going to give you clues. Listen to your body. It's telling you something. So if I inhibit my bradykinin, I end up, again, just like everything else in there, reduced pain, reduced inflammation. But bradykinins also are used in some wound healing and some tissue repair operations. So yeah, I don't need them down there causing swelling and redness and soreness, but I might need a little bit as part of that repair mechanism. But if I can shut down the swelling and allow the normal healing to go on, then that's really and truly my optimum situation. Same thing with the histamines. The histamines will reduce my itching, my redness, my swelling, what I need. But I don't want it to interfere with those other aspects of the functions that go on during the healing processes. So my portion of this thing is, yeah, I get swelling. Let's get rid of the swelling. That's going to open up and allow things. I want more mobility. Maybe I have an injured back. I can't walk. Let me give some mobility that's not giving me constant pain. So as I'm looking at these things, I think this is probably a really good place to stop because now I'm getting into the gateway control theory. And when I start looking at now these issues of pain perception and what can I do about it, this kind of like the next area that I want to go into. So with that being said, let me pop on down because this was going to be the introductory slide for everything else coming up. And So let's jump into who I am, how to reach me. Red@redolaughlin.com, red.olaughlin@gmail.com are two good ways. I'm a speaker, an author, a publisher. I can help you with your books, get them published. No matter what you can do it is a book I wrote several years ago. It talks about the subconscious mind. The thing that's in control of 95% of everything you do. If you don't know how to talk to it, things that you don't want to have happen could happen. And there's a lot of good information in there. If I look at stress and toxins and radiation, inflammation, infection, diet, and other things, those all cause disease at the cellular level. Chronic low-level inflammation leads to a lot of things. So The Joy of Ageless Health talks about what you can do to counter the causes of a lot of disease. Longevity Secrets of Healthy Aging. All these books are found on Amazon, by the way, or my website. They talk about the two primary causes of aging, your human growth hormone and your telomere at the end of your DNA, and what you can do to accelerate your aging process or decelerate it. And understanding the causes of Alzheimer's, a compilation of over 40 articles I've written on Alzheimer's over the years. And my latest book, The Essential New Author's Guide, is basically how can you write and publish your book for free? Everything's in there that I would tell somebody or show somebody how to do. So if you want anything that I've written and published so far, go to Google the title of my book, go to my website, go to Amazon. It's available out there. And those are things that I can do to help people. But if you want to reach me, email me, call me. My information is on my website. And with that, I am going to bid adieu for today. And we're going to pick up next week with that gateway control. How can we, again, now we're out of the chemical end of things. What can I do to ameliorate that level? Now I'm in my spine. It's getting ready to go to the brain. What options do I have now? And that's what our topic will be next week. So with that, we'll take care of it for today. And all these series are on YouTube, archived. Please go to the USA Global TV and Radio Network, and you can find them there. And so with that, take care, have fun, and we'll catch you all later. Bye.
Hello everyone, I'm Simon MacDonald. I live in the West Highlands of Scotland, a very beautiful part of the world. Seems a long way from the USA Global TV station. But remember, USA Global TV is worldwide. It's a fantastic platform. And every Wednesday, I come along here as part of the show of the United Kingdom News and Culture. And it's just like a family reunion each time. It's one of these amazing stations that has such a beautiful, friendly, and intelligent atmosphere as well. And we reach out to an audience in the most unimaginable places. And I came here, I don't know, must be over a year ago now. I was introduced by Dr. Philip Chan, and I met Ian Plum-Turner and Helena Chard, who are co-presenters on the show. And then Diane Floyd-Bem came along as well. And I mean, the five of us, Dr. Jacqueline, of course, who is our host and our mentor, has just made this show work so well. Tremendous people, lovely time we have, and we impart a lot of information, a lot of knowledge. Nothing's rehearsed. It's all done off the cuff, and it all just gels. And we get great feedback from people coming back and saying how they're enjoying the show. It's lovely to hear, and it's lovely to get that interaction from outside as well. And we're all listeners, and some of us are elevated listeners as well. So we enjoy every second of it, and we hope you do too.